Nietzsche and the fatigue of being a strong woman. Why you feel like you're going to break down.
Have you ever felt the silent weight of being the woman everyone calls strong? The one who can never fail, who always has to hold everything together, even when she's on the verge of collapsing? In this video, we dive into the heart of that invisible exhaustion, exploring the cracks that begin to appear in the soul of someone who carries the world on her shoulders. Inspired by Nietzsche and guided by insights from neuroscience and evolutionary psychology, we'll uncover why the very strength the world admires may, in truth, be what is consuming you from within. Get ready for an intimate and profound journey where classical philosophies meet modern discoveries to reveal a new kind of strength, the one that is born when you learn to listen to your body, acknowledge your shadows, and allow yourself to be vulnerable. This is a story of transformation, courage, and the search for a freedom that goes beyond appearances. If you've ever felt like you're at your limit, this video is for you. And what comes next may forever change the way you see your own strength. Have you ever felt deep down that invisible weight that comes with being called a strong woman? It sounds like a compliment, doesn't it? But that strength the world praises that looks like a throne of power is often a silent prison. Nietzsche's striking phrase, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger," may sound like a mantra for those who battle adversity. Yet for many women, that strength is a burden that slowly consumes them, a demand that allows no weakness, no pause. Simone de Beauvoir, the philosopher who exposed the role of women in society, reminds us that this strength is often a survival mechanism in a world that historically refused to recognize women as complete beings, seeing them instead as figures shaped for others, for men, for family, for society. This strength is not natural. It is forged in the daily struggle not to disappear. Being strong has become a mask many women wear to hide their exhaustion, pain, and vulnerability. They learn to swallow tears, to smile even when drained, to take care of everyone else while leaving themselves for last. And in that silence, in that unseen exhaustion, the soul begins to wear down. Beauvoir teaches us that this condition is not destiny but a social construction, a call to question what it really means to be a strong woman. Nietzsche, in turn, pushes us to look inward and recognize that true strength may not lie in enduring everything, but in allowing ourselves to exist fully, fragilities and all. This is the first crack in the armor, a call to listen to what you've been silencing for so long. If you're watching this and feel that this story is yours, that this pain is yours, know that you are not alone. This silent struggle is more common than it seems, and it doesn't have to stay this way forever. Beneath the mask of strength is a deep desire to be seen and cared for. Nietzsche challenges us to go beyond what has been imposed, and Beauvoir reminds us that this change begins the moment you start questioning the role you've been assigned. It is there, in that delicate space between what was and what could be, that the possibility of a new story is born, one in which you are the protagonist of yourself, not just the guardian of others. There is still much to discover, and this path is only the beginning. There is a silent trap in what many call the strong woman. It's the compliment that imprisons, the phrase that seems to elevate but actually carries an invisible weight. Nietzsche warned us about resentment, not the obvious kind of hatred, but the repressed energy, the pain that builds up when the will is stifled. The strong woman, admired for her endurance, often feels this resentment growing within her, because while she carries the world, she rarely receives the care she deserves. Schopenhauer, with his deeply pessimistic view, shows us that human will is a constant source of suffering, and that the world, in its essence, does not offer comfort, especially to those forced to hide their own pain in order to survive. The strength of the woman who bears everything is, in many cases, a mask concealing the emptiness left by a lack of care and recognition. She has become everyone's pillar, the problem solver, the one who never breaks, who never complains. But this endless load is a burden that slowly corrodes the soul. Nietzsche invites us to recognize that this silent resentment is a sign that something within must be transformed. while Schopenhauer reminds us that denying our own needs and desires creates a cruel cycle of suffering. It's like carrying an invisible weight no one else sees, but one you feel with every step. If you recognize yourself in this prison of being the strong woman who is never allowed to fail, know that this so-called compliment can actually be an emotional sentence. What appears to be recognition is really an expectation for you to keep enduring, even when everything inside you begs for rest. Nietzsche and Schopenhauer urge us to question this burden. Why hide the pain if it is an essential part of being? The key may lie in realizing that strength is not the same as invulnerability, and that allowing yourself to be vulnerable is the first step toward breaking these invisible chains. There is still much to explore, and the journey is only beginning. The exhaustion you feel is not only emotional, it is also profoundly physical. Nietzsche challenges us to become who you are, a call to authenticity that can only happen when we recognize our deepest limits. Neuroscience confirms that chronic stress alters brain function, particularly by shutting down the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for control and decision-making, while overstimulating the amygdala, the center of fear and anxiety. In other words, that feeling of "I can't take it anymore" has a real biological foundation. Your body is crying out for help, even when your mouth stays silent. From the perspective of evolutionary psychology, there's a key understanding. Throughout history, women have been conditioned to care for the group, putting others' needs ahead of their own. This mechanism, which once ensured the survival of communities, can now turn into an emotional trap, where guilt arises whenever you try to put yourself first. It's an ancient struggle between the instinct to care for others and the right to care for yourself. Recognizing this dynamic is the first step toward liberation. Seeking rest does not make you selfish, it means respecting a vital need. Here are 3 insights that combine philosophy and science to help you break this cycle. First, accept that your limits are sacred. Acknowledging exhaustion is not weakness, it is courage. Second, understand that your brain needs safe moments to recover, and creating those spaces is essential for easing stress and anxiety. Third, allow yourself to ask for help and be cared for, not as a sign of fragility, but as an act of wisdom. Nietzsche reminds us that true strength lies in creating new paths to exist, and that change begins the moment you listen to your body, breaking the silence you were taught to keep. The pressure to be perfect in every role society demands, tireless mother, flawless professional, attentive partner, beautiful and balanced woman, weighs like an ever heavier armor on your shoulders. Nietzsche, when speaking of the eternal return, invites us to imagine, what if you had to live this very same life with all its demands and sacrifices over and over, for eternity? This idea reveals how suffocating the routine of trying to please and maintain an unshakable image can be, leading to deep internal wear. Kierkegaard, the philosopher of existential anguish, points out that this pursuit of perfection is also a form of escape, a desperate attempt to avoid confronting one's inner truth. This tension, between sustaining the image of unbreakable strength and the silent wish to let go, creates a strain that corrodes the spirit. The strong woman feels trapped between meeting external expectations and answering the inner call for authenticity and freedom. Kierkegaard reminds us that anguish is the price of living authentically, but also the sign that something new can be born from restlessness. Nietzsche reinforces that only those who accept chaos and imperfection can turn their life into something genuine. This tension is not a sign of weakness. It is the spark of an inner revolution. If you are living this struggle, know that you are neither alone nor wrong. The burden of perfection is too heavy for anyone to carry alone, and recognizing this pressure is the first step to breaking the cycle. The path you face is not easy, but it is essential if you are to finally choose who you want to be, beyond labels, demands, and expectations. And it is in that yet unexplored space that the next part of this story begins to take shape, promising to reveal the strength that emerges when we allow ourselves to be whole with all our nuances, Beneath the wear and the cracks in the armor, something new begins to form. A quiet rebirth that needs no applause or outside recognition. Nietzsche teaches us that one must have chaos within to give birth to a dancing star, a powerful metaphor for the transformation that occurs when we accept the complexity and contradiction within ourselves. Carl Jung expands on this with his concept of the shadow, those hidden parts of us that we repress to fit into social expectations, but which hold vital energy essential to our wholeness. For the woman who has always been strong, recognizing and integrating her shadow is a revolutionary step that brings freedom and authenticity. This inner awakening doesn't happen dramatically, but like a flame that slowly begins to glow in silence. It is the moment when a woman stops trying to prove something to the world and begins proving it to herself, embracing her vulnerability, her pain, and her strength with equal courage. Jung reminds us that individuation, the process of becoming whole, is life's true journey, while Nietzsche encourages us to affirm existence despite every hardship. In this new phase, a woman no longer seeks to be invincible. She seeks to be whole, true. And that is the greatest strength there is. If you feel this calling, that restlessness you can't explain, know that you are standing at the threshold of a profound transformation. What once seemed like the end, the breaking point, may actually be the beginning of your most authentic freedom. And though this journey is long and sometimes lonely, it is also a radical affirmation of life, a gesture of courage few dare to make. This story is only beginning, and there is much more ahead, exploring the many layers of a strength far greater than what the world usually sees.